Welcome to module B, lecture 5. This is the last lecture of this module. In lecture 4, we discussed about the information needs for travel demand forecasting, and in specific we discussed about the travel related informations, specifically the importance of the origin destination data, then the issue related to considering vehicle trips or person trips. We said that it is context specific, and also if we are using public transport related work, then the person trips data is very important. Then also we said the kind of trip purpose stratification we should use depending on the context. We gave a lot of examples as well. Then the confusion related to defining productions and attractions, taking the origin and destination, that discussion we had. We said that if home is there either as origin or as destination, then trip is always produced at home end and get attracted to the other end, right. Other end is always the attraction, and if neither end is the home end, then the origin is the point of production and trip is getting attracted. So, the destination is the attraction. Then we talked about the processing of travel data, how to develop calibration files, what it means, then how the trip tables are developed based on the calibration file, and then finally, how we develop the initial travel impedance, because that is very important. When we start the 4-stage planning, particularly say trip distribution or mode choice, we need to use the travel time data. Now, of course, the actual loading is not known at that time, but you start with something. We need to start with something. So, that is the initial values that we can get from this processing of travel data, because we have lot of data. We know people are traveling from one point to another, one zone to another zone using different modes. All those data are available. So, the initial travel impedances may be developed from this data, which subsequently once you do the actual modeling, then you know the actual loading, and then maybe the travel time and travel cost may be revised. So, accordingly we may need to update, but initial travel impedances may be developed based on that. With this background, in this lecture we are going to mainly focus on the data collection. Although we use various types of data, but in the 4-stage transportation planning context, it is very important to have the OD data. So, we are specifically now going to talk about the OD studies, which are conducted to understand the pattern of movement of persons and goods, which serve as a basis for travel demand modeling. You want to develop the trip distribution, you need it. Sometimes even the mode wise OD data is also used, right, for other works related to 4-stage transportation planning. And why it is very important, because OD data is used basically for calibration of travel demand model, and once you have a travel demand model, you can do so many important and very practical things. For example, analysis of travel characteristic, what would be the travel time, what would be the delay, and if that is the travel scenario, then what kind of pollution or the vehicular emission that is expected, then what would be the impact of closure of existing route, maybe if due to certain incidents or road work, some links or some segments are to be closed, then what would be the impact, we can assess it. We can say that design and evaluation of the effectiveness of new routes if introduced in a transportation network. Also, we can do the long range travel demand forecast to identify potential future problems, that if it happens, then down the line 5 years or 10 years, what kind of transportation problems we are going to encounter. And all such kind of extremely valuable things can be used using a calibrated travel demand models, and for doing this calibration you need the OD data. So, the OD studies is really very important. Here we are telling that the OD studies can be categorized into one of 7 types. We will say what are those 7 types, a detailed discussion will be made subsequently in this lecture only. First is the household travel survey. Here basically go to the households and then collect the travel data. How and what further details we will discuss later, but these are typically done for building a or updating a travel demand model. Next is the roadside station service. In a varieties of way we can collect the OD data from roadside station service, typically maybe for bypass feasibility study or even for traffic signal retimings. We need to do this kind of data, may be very useful, this kind of data collection may be very useful. Then employer and special generator travel survey also may be done as a part of OD studies. Where we do typically when the central business district or the CBD area congestion is really the key issue, and we are thinking what we can do, how we can avoid bringing so many people at a given time at this location. So, we do some OD studies covering employers and special generator travel survey. Okay. That is the thing. Then commercial vehicle travel survey, this is also one way of doing the OD studies. Particularly we do it when we want to do commercial vehicle demand modeling. So, we need to identify and get the commercial OD data. So, we can get it. Onboard transit survey, this is again another form. Typically we do when we want to do work related to transit, maybe redesign of transit routes or further improvement of the service characteristics of the transit, all this can be done. Then hotel and visitor surveys are also done as a part of OD studies. Typically where we do, where there is a tourism district or there are certain zones in the study area where a lot of tourists come from outside. So, they come, they stay, always in urban area where tourism is really a factor, an important consideration. There are certain catchments where the tourists come and stay. In the city, anybody who asks, they know that where the hotels are located, and typically tourists come and stay there. So, there we do again as a part of OD study. So, we do hotel and visitor survey, because we interact with them, where from they are coming, what are the places they want to travel and what are their expectations, and so, and then extract the relevant data which are important for the 4-stage demand modeling. Also, OD studies may be done as a part of the parking surveys, because urban area parking is a major problem. There are quite often imbalance between the demand and supply of parking in CBD areas, and so we need to understand what kind of parking shortage is there, or even what kind of parking management, or even what other improvements may be possible. So, as a part of parking surveys also, in the form of parking surveys, we can also still do the OD studies. So, that is the different categories. Okay. That is the different way the OD studies may be categorized. Then there are different data collection techniques and methods which may be employed for this OD data collection. One is basically the home interview survey, that simply you go to the go to different households and you do home interview data, home interview survey and collect the data. Then license plate matching technique, this is one technique which is used extensively again, right. So, at various locations you try to match the license plate, then automatically you know how the vehicle is moving, right. So, maybe two external cordon point I match the license plate and I find the same license plate. So, I know that is basically external to external trips, right. Just one instant example, there could be many other applications, right. So, that is kind of data. You can use maybe clipboard method, where maybe you can record the thing manually on a piece of paper or using some other means, or you can do a videographic method, right. So, videography, say you from the videographic data you collect that one. There are other matching techniques not using license plate, there are other matching techniques, a host of techniques are available, maybe automatic vehicle identifications at the toll locations, that is there, in different toll plazas located in different place, vehicle things are there. So, toll station, one can use advanced video imaging. Even many cases, if you are using loop detectors are used for traffic data collection, they can also be matched. So, there are even other non-license plate matching techniques, right, where we do not really match the license plate, we do not record, but some other ways we try to understand the origin destination. Then license plate follow survey, we simply get the license plate and we know that the vehicle is at a given location at a given time, and then subsequently we can communicate through telephonic interview, through postcard and through email. So many ways communication is possible. Then intercept survey techniques, this is generally you can do it for any kinds of road, even for pedestrians also one can do, for passengers, for different passengers of public transport, intermediate public transport, in all cases you can do. So, roadside interviews you can do it for we can do it, or we can do it even IPT survey, or maybe at the stations or at the stand, public transport also at the bus stops or the stations, even inside vehicle. So, these are basically we are intercept survey technique, we are saying we intercept road users and then or transport users and then take it. You can also use postcard questionnaire, you can use tag on vehicle survey, that these are again other intercepting, then intercepting vehicle, not intercepting passenger. We can intercept vehicle, we can intercept passengers in so many ways. Generally, we are saying it as intercept survey techniques. So, tag on vehicle surveys, we are basically intercepting vehicle. So, cordon line survey, commercial vehicle also may be surveyed by intercepting. So, there are so many host of techniques are there which may be, or approaches are there which may be used to to intercept either vehicle or passenger or so, passenger vehicle, goods vehicle or individual passenger and then collect the required data. We can also use vehicle tracing techniques, which may include innovative commercial vehicle tracking methods, GPS tracking, mobile data, use of mobile data, wireless phone tracking, so number of things can be done here. So, these are all different techniques. Now, when we are doing the data collection, the choice of survey method is obviously it is a compromise between what is the objective of the survey and what kind of resource is available, right. Because these are the two major determinants. What is my objective, what I will do with this data and what for I am collecting this data, and second, how much resource is available to me. So, typically I would say that I have shown it like this. You can say one is the survey resource, how much money, how much time I have available. Then what is the expectation in terms of the quality of the data, right, and what is the expectation in terms of the quantity of data. So, it is quality of data, quantity of data and the available resource. Now, when I am saying quality of data, then two aspects are again very important. The quality expectation about what level of quality, what quality data I really require, that will say what kind of survey method I would deploy, right, and also what kind of quality control I need to adopt. So, what survey method and what type of quality control is needed, that covers the quality of data, and quality of data means quality aspects of the data. I should not say rather quality of data, but it is quality aspects of the data. So, for quality aspects of the data, it is important to judiciously select the survey method and formulate the quality control aspect of the data. You send the data collection if you are doing a personal interview. So, then you train the enumerators, you do some piloting, you just ensure that they are able to really speak clearly, explain the things clearly in a face-to-face interview. So, all these are there. So, quality of data means quality aspects of the data rather, right. And for that its survey method, that is very important, and what kind of quality control. When you see the quantity aspects of the data, then that means how much data I required basically, that will basically relate to the survey length, for how much duration I should do the survey, right. 1 day, 2 day, only peak hour, whole day, okay, multiple days in a week, weekdays and weekends or holidays separately, and also it will relate to the sample size. The sample size is very, very important, because we are always, all the data we are collecting, we use sample data, right. So, sample has to be representative of the population. There are different sampling techniques, and that itself is a subject area, right. So, you really need to understand different sampling techniques, and then what kind of sampling techniques would be appropriate for a given context. So, all these considerations are there. I am not going into details, because a detailed discussion about the sample size and sampling strategy, this is actually beyond the control. Sampling strategy is again relates to the quality of the data, right, sampling strategy, because if your sampling strategy is not there, then you will not get the good quality. So, quality may include enumerator training, quality may include also the type of sampling what you are using for a given context, or what you are adapting for a given context. So, given a resource, how best we can handle the quality aspect and how best we can handle the quantity aspect, and in altogether the survey methods, quality control aspect of the data, quality control as I said in terms of enumerator, training, okay, the correctness, if you are using automated imaging data collection, what is the reliability or how good you can extract the data, okay, the correctness of that, right. All this will important, and even the sampling strategy all will come, and the quantity of the data in that perspective may be what should be my survey length and how much sample I required. There are different sample size calculator that for different surveys, well established sample size calculators are there, depending on certain parameters. We can understand that what would be the minimum sample size requirement, right. These are very, very important aspect. Then we now briefly discuss about the various techniques. As I say, in home interview techniques, it has been long been associated with the transport. Lot of people have been using it, which is providing the major means of data collection for the transport. Typically, what we collect is like this: address of household, the number of persons who live there, number of cars which are available with residents, then what is the occupation of the head of the household, and what is the income of the household, right. So, all this kind of data are collected. Along with these, we for each trip, the trip details. For example, we identification of the persons who made a trip. In a family, there may be 4 persons who are making trips. So, each of them, each person, each trip details are recorded. So, we need to identify the persons who make the trip, we need to record the origin and destination of the trip, time at which the trip started, at time when it ended. So, you know how much it took for the trip to complete. Then purpose at the origin and purpose at the destination, what is the mode of transport that is used, what is the type of activity at the origin and destination. All these data are collected from typical home interview survey. It has got certain advantages. For example, you can get very high generally high response rates if you are personally doing an home interview survey. Just notionally maybe 75 to 80% response rate you can get, success rate you can get. There is a lot of flexibility in terms of the type of information one wants to collect. Explanation can be given regarding the questionnaire, because face to face you are going in the household level and then collecting the data, talking to them, and normally people hopefully would listen and would spend little bit of time. If you catch somebody when he is going to the office, you will be very busy and may not be interested, but if you are when somebody is willing to talk to you at home, and they will they can ask you explanation and you can get a chance to explain also or clarify some doubts, then it is effective in maintaining respondent interest and ensuring that full set is completed. You are not like a postcard survey or something, you leave it to them and you do not know, they may return, they may complete some questionnaire, they may not complete some questionnaire. Here we have better control, and interviewer can make a valuable assessment of the validity of the recorded answer. So, if somebody is going and doing a home interview survey, you know that how the respondent is actually responding. So, from the response one can judge about the quality of the data. So, if you know that no, he had to give some reply, so somehow he gave some reply and completed it, you may not use the data. So, you can apply that kind of judgment. That is really an important part in this context. But it has got as usual some disadvantage, because it is expensive. I will say not relatively expensive, but it is really expensive in big cities for say Calcutta or for Bombay or Chennai or Bangalore, if you want to do, and if you have really want to collect a required minimum sample, it is enormously expensive, right. It is valuable, it is really valuable, but it is expensive as well. Another disadvantage is it sometimes interviewer bias may be there, may affect participant, because ultimately you are employing large number of enumerators, because it is not a job of 1 or 2 person, you need a much bigger team to do it. So, although you do much quality control training and everything, still sometimes may be a problem. It is not suited where considered response is required. That is another part. Then next method is the commercial vehicle travel survey. Next part is commercial vehicle travel survey. This is most household travel survey do a poor job. We have seen that in terms of defined commercial trips, they do not come. Person trip data comes in with a different spirit, but not the commercial travel. So, you need to do something else, something extra. That is what is this one. So, owners of commercial vehicles in the study area are contacted, and the drivers of those vehicles in operation are asked to record all the trips to obtain OD data of commercial vehicles. So, we can contact the operator, contact the driver wherever applicable, and whichever is suitable for a given context and appropriate for a given context, and then get all the data. What commodity they are carrying, where they are studying, where they are going. So, especially I mean normally the person trip data collection and the commercial vehicle data collection is not really same, and I would say that getting the commercial vehicle data or the goods movement data is even much more challenging, right. So, we need an extra effort. This information can be utilized to determine trip rates, maybe commodity wise flow, and also indirectly relate to the air quality monitoring within an urban area. So, that is the thing. Then the cordon line survey, we say what is cordon line, and the cordon line is a pair where the external to internal or internal external or trips are getting interchanged, that is the imaginary line. So, we have to do cordon line survey because it provides useful information about the trip from and to external zones, right, because it is the demarcation of the study area boundary. If you do not remember, then what is cordon line? It is the imaginary line which is demarcating the study area, right. So, study area boundary is delineated by this cordon line. So, obviously, many roads will intersect, and on all those locations we need to do the traffic count and OD to understand how the movement is taking place. So, the objective of this study survey is primarily to collect the origin and destination zones of the vehicles, to develop OD metrics, right, and it could be done either recording the license plate number at all the external cordon points by the postcard method, or even a variety of method. You can simply note down, or you can, using the camera you can record it, right, and even you can stop. Okay. At the cordon line location we can do. Again, several techniques can be deployed depending on the context, not just one. But cordon line survey means at the cordon location we are intercepting vehicles, collecting the information and trying to establish that OD. That is the basic objective. Then license plate follow up survey technique also may be used. This technique records the license plate at a particular roadside station. Basically just to record, this vehicle was there at this location at this time. Okay. So, then what we do? A list of license plate is then provided to the motor vehicles department, and we get the contact information of the vehicle owner. May or may not be applicable in our situation, you may not be able to do this in everywhere, but yes, these are the methods which are available, right. Then a survey is sent to the vehicle owner, who is then asked to respond to the survey of questions regarding the specific trip on which their license plates were recorded, saying that it is something like this vehicle was located in this area at this time at this thing. So, what for the travel was made, where from the travel was made, okay, what was the purpose for the travel, and so on so forth, and whatever relevant data. This survey is usually conducted via a telephonic interview or a postcard mail out, response via mail in, telephone and or internet. In so many ways we can collect the data, whatever is suitable. Then tag on vehicle survey. In this method, drivers are really stopped at roadside stations, and what a color coded identifier is placed on the bumper or front window of the passing vehicle. So, you are doing it maybe at different strategic locations, maybe even for external vehicles also one can do it. So, every location has got a color tag. So, if the vehicle is entering from that tag is given. So, wherever at other points the vehicle will be noted, they know that vehicle which has entered from that point actually has come to this area. So, that tells you even the movement, the pattern of movements that is happening. So, each roadside station has a kind of unique color assigned to it, and then the data collectors at each station then record the passing vehicle tag color to determine the percentage of vehicle coming from another station. So, if I look, if I have 10 vehicles I have observed here, then 2 are red out of 10. So, I know that wherever the red tag has been used, only whatever I am getting here 20% of the vehicle is actually coming from that location or that through that point actually. So, drivers are instructed to remove any identifier at their next destinations, right. So, once it is done, you remove it because you do not want to create further confusion. Intermediate public transport survey, as I said, to know the operational and user characteristics of the present survey. It is not only intermediate public transport survey, but it is also for public transport survey, right, for all IPT, PT mode. So, there are again so many ways primary data can be collected, say via direct interview. This can be done at the IPT or PT public transport or intermediate public transport stations, or even during the trip. So, you can do it at the stop when people are waiting for bus or waiting for shared auto or taxis to come, shared taxis to come. You can talk to them, get it, or for bus particularly you can do it during the trip also. When they are traveling, then you are interacting with them inside the vehicle. So, there are obvious advantage in terms of how many locations you can cover and how many samples you can get and all those. Then postcard collection and distribution also is thing, but I would say it is basically outdated. Nowadays I do not think it is very appropriate, and response rate is also not good. So, the face to face personal interview, at least in Indian context, that works much better. For user survey, it can be online or as well as on board during the trip, right. So, the first one was direct interview and the second one is user survey. So, online we have done lot of surveys regarding the IPT and PT usage. So, distributed in send an appeal in social media using Facebook, Twitter, even WhatsApp, right. So, to larger audiences and then request them to participate. So, sometimes by email. So, all these platforms can be used, or user survey can also be done on board during the trip. I mean, simply put, the person who enumerator we call, who collects the data, the enumerator is also traveling in that bus or train, and then while traveling interact with people and get all the necessary information. So, these are all different methods. Then one can also use innovative commercial vehicle tracking method. This basically freight road vehicle operations vary widely depending on the many factors, say the type of industry, the commodities transported and geographical scope, lot of things. Every community has got a different pattern. What kind of commercial vehicle movement will take place, that also depends on the what commodity the vehicle is carrying. It is very much, sometimes the requirement are very much commodity specific, and it is a different world altogether. Goods vehicle movement is a different world and sometimes much more complex, right. So, this kind of service may include vehicle tracking along with day to day driver activity survey to collect static and dynamic data related to freight vehicle operation. So, many cases some vehicle fleets are equipped with GPS loggers are involved for the commercial vehicle. So, the complete tracking is done, and from that where the vehicle went and where origin, where is the destination, everything lot of informations would come out from that. A pre-survey is also administered, and pre-survey covers here static information such as driver socioeconomic, then employment, vehicle and vehicle operations data. All these are collected, and then GPS data logger and GPS data is also taken. Following, each vehicle is actually tracked for a total of 30 days after doing the pre-survey, and the drivers are invited to verify the data that have come out, just to as a check, right. So, if there is any mismatch or anything, and complete a daily timeline or the travel diary for the 5 consecutive working days, what they did and what not. The daily survey focuses on obtaining stop related details, because obviously the commercial vehicles will stop for parking, for food and for rest and all other things. So, you can say stop purpose, commodity what they were carrying, how much quantities they were handling, all sides of related information, and also capture abnormal events such as where they faced congestion or where they had to do detouring due to unforeseen or unforeseeable circumstances that affected daily operations. All such kind of things, lot of data will come out from this innovative techniques. So, in summary, we discussed in this lecture the purpose of OD studies and various OD or travel surveys, various survey techniques, mainly the home interview survey, commercial vehicle travel survey, cordon line survey, license plate follow up survey techniques, tag on vehicle survey, then IPT and PT surveys, innovative commercial vehicle tracking. So, these are the different methods which help us and different techniques which can be employed or used judiciously to get the required travel data for the travel demand forecasting. So, with this we complete this module B, that is on overview of the 4-stage transportation planning process. Thank you so much.